Blunt Cuts is a podcast fueled by creativity, curiosity, and empowerment.
We cut through the daily mess of life. This is unfiltered honesty.
Park your passive at the door. This is Blunt Cuts. Welcome to Blunt Cuts. I'm CJ. Please welcome to the Field Collective studio, Aneela Idnani, co-founder of Habit Aware, focused on helping people with subconscious behaviors get in control. Welcome. So nice to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
I'm so excited for everyone to learn about you and your product, and I'm so excited to get it into the lives of the people that I know. Let's get started. Let's talk about kind of what brought you in your journey to creating a company like this.
Yeah, so at Habit Aware, we make a smart bracelet that helps people essentially become aware of subconscious unwanted behaviors that at their core are mental health conditions. So these include hair pulling, compulsive skin picking, and excessive nail biting. And really the way we got started, I like to say it was 20 plus years in the making. I started pulling out my hair in my early teens around the time that my father fell sick with cancer. So for me, this was a coping mechanism for stress and anxiety. It was an unhealthy way of dealing with what was going on in my life, but it was just the go-to trance-like mechanism. And at the time, I was very young, and I didn't understand why it was happening or what it was, and I thought I was really alone and weird for doing this to myself. So I shut people out from this part of my life and sort of built, brick by brick, built a wall around this part of my life. And so I hid for a really long time, and it fed a vicious cycle of negative self-speak, that there was something wrong with me, that I was, wrong for doing these behaviors, that I was damaging myself, and that I was damaged in the process. Mm-hmm. So it led me to not live a life that I really wanted to be doing. I was 12, 13 years old. I loved basketball, but I shied away from trying out for the team, not because I didn't think I could make it, but because I was scared that in the locker room people would find out that I was pulling out my hair, that would see the bald spots. And so in that respect, it really just led me to not really living a good life. And then in my early 20s, I finally figured out that it was a mental health condition, thanks to Dr. Google. Or maybe Dr. Yahoo at the time.
Right. Oh my gosh.
And then really a couple of years ago, I was going through a phase of excessive hair pulling and getting ready in the morning, went to go grab my black eyebrow pencil, which was my partner in crime, and my husband was standing right there, and he looked at me and said, "Where are your eyebrows?" And that's when I finally broke down and came clean with this secret and shed the baggage that I'd been holding on to for so long. And as he sort of started researching and I sort of started letting him in, just one day I shared that I just wished I had something that made me aware of this disorder, of this behavior. And it didn't exist, so we said, let's do this, let's build this. We can't build it, but we will figure out how.
Yeah, that's just so fascinating that your journey went through 20 years of discovery and came to a company yeah. such as yours, and it's such a great space that no one, I think, is really talking about or there for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the beautiful thing that I feel that we're doing, is that we are able to be a voice for people in this community who have so long have been hiding. And I want people with these disorders, in the same way that someone shares that they have diabetes or that they're going to the hospital to go for their next round of chemo, like, to be able to say, yeah, I pull out my hair. That doesn't make me who I am. It's just the challenge that I have in my life that I have to face and I have to deal with.
Awesome. Yeah, no, Michaela and I were kind of talking about it, and we thought that this could be a good anti-smoking tool as well. So just that idea of just being aware
mm-hmm.
of your action.
Yep.
And when you choose to move your body in a certain way and trying to stop those behaviors. It's just it's really fascinating. It's so simple.
Yeah, there's
but there's just nothing there unless somebody's constantly with you.
Yep. Which you don't really want.
You don't want.
That's exactly what happened.
It's projected on that person.
Yep. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Is once my husband knew, then we were sitting and watching TV, and I was pulling without realizing it, and he grabbed my hand, and I was just like, oh, no, you don't. You don't tell me what to do.
That's too far, you know, like that's entering your space, not letting you be aware.
Exactly. So we actually even call it a hug around your wrist. It's that gentle reminder, you know, your buddy system to just say, hey, your hands are not where you want them to be. And, you know, there's this graphic floating around on the internet that shows your thoughts kind of affect your feelings, which then impact your actions. And so for me, it's my mind was always in chaos. And it led to this vicious cycle of negative feelings, which then came out through actions with my hands. So for me, I believe that the hands are sort of the gateway to the mind. So if you can kind of obtain control over what your hands are doing, then you can kind of work backwards and work on the feelings and work on the thoughts. And so it is a lifelong process, and it's been a really fun journey to go on.
Well, and absolutely well received. You have gotten a lot of great press, and how long have you been developing the product or the business?
We started in 2014, and then by the time we were in early 2016, we were accepted into HACS, which is a hardware accelerator program. We went out to Shenzhen, China with our team and our 3-year-old son.
Amazing. I love that.
It was
family component.
Yep. Yeah. And then we started shipping our product in 2017. And by the end of 2018, we were a Time Magazine Best Invention. So
yeah, it's incredible.
Been super, super exciting.
Well, we've had the pleasure of talking a little bit about your family and how large of a component they've been in your journey. And I think that that's such an important thing to discuss and talk about, and how, not only did you open up to your husband about this behavior, but you also opened up this opportunity to build something together and with your children. And you have 2 very young children.
Yep. Yeah. 5-year-olds, almost 6 and 2.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how do you do it as a family?
It's definitely ups and downs for sure. The work never shuts off. We did a date night the other night, and it was like, okay, we're not going to talk about work, and it was dead silence. And then I started to ask a question, and I was like, oh wait, that's a work question. So it's very intertwined, and even my almost 6-year-old, I can see him coming with me to events, next year. Like he understands everything about the technology and what it's for, and so it's super cool to kind of see that growth in him, in a sense. But yeah, working with your spouse it's awesome. It's challenging, but it's really, really awesome. I think for us, we kind of get this question now from investors and from journalists, like, what is it like, or even just friends and people just saying, I could never do that with my husband.
Yeah, that's the camp I'm in.
Yeah. And that just being asked that question, it took a little introspection, but I realized that his parents worked together. He grew up in Michigan, and even though both his dad and his mom had different full-time jobs, his dad would help his mom with her medical practice. And in the same way, my dad had his own full-time job, but would help my mom with her dental practice. And my mom would help him with his business practice. I still have no clue what he did for a living, but something with computers. So, for us, I think it's just in our culture, in our way of life, and even me growing up around all of these other Indian families in our community, it was brothers and uncles and sons and daughters and wives, like, working together. They're all business people, all entrepreneurs, and it was just it was just natural for us to see that. So I feel like it's just been an easy sort of mesh for us. Even when he was working in financial services pre-Habit-Aware and I was working in advertising, we'd sit and we'd watch TV, and I would build his presentation decks for him and make them look nice.
Yeah,
so we were always working together.
And this is the part that I think you remind me of, because my husband is part of my entrepreneur life and my businesses in a lot of ways. And he's always helping me and helping me problem solve and helping me source things or technology. And same thing in his world. He manages a data center, and I'm constantly like, what's your marketing plan? What's the strategy you're going out to market with? You guys have a really unique startup. Like, what are you doing with this, from my creative directing and marketing and advertising brain side. So, I do think that
There's
it is
definitely collaboration. You have to have that collaboration. You're building a family together. You're building a life together. You're building a balance sheet together. So why not be all in,
Yeah. No, you're inspiring. I don't know if you've quite changed me into jumping into a full concept with him yet.
Well, it'll just take the right
baby
concept.
steps.
Yeah.
Baby steps. Perfect. Well, I would love to kind of hear what things you've learned and what struggles that you've had in developing this product.
Yeah, honestly, the very first challenge I had was getting over that hump of having to share that I did this. It was one thing to share my husband, the person that I promised to love in sickness and health, who even I hid that for years. But to actually come to what was then Coco, now Fuel Collective, to friends who were members, to say, hey, I do this thing where I pull out my hair and I have this idea, and you're into hardware, can you help me?
Yeah.
Or do you know someone? And so to be able to share, that was number one, the hardest challenge that we had, that I personally had. For many startup entrepreneurs, they have that fear of sharing their idea, someone's going to steal it. But,
yeah, no, totally. I think that's like that weird thing that you hear. But if the good idea doesn't get out there, it doesn't get out there.
Exactly. Yeah, it doesn't get made, in fact. So it was a really tough challenge there. But obviously, I started with people that I thought were close to me, and then as I practiced sharing, I just got more confident in being able to say, yeah, I pull out my hair. But that was a challenge. And then
I think that's such a good point, though. Having a community that you can either find or that you currently have that you can bounce things off of, if you're starting anything or going through anything from that perspective, from a mental health perspective. I know that Michaela and I have talked about this before, but when you talk about it, it helps.
Absolutely.
And you work through things, and the more you can talk about it and the more you can just talk in general and express yourself through what you're going through to others, you're going to make an impact in a positive way.
Yeah. I mean, I think writing or talking, it just releases it from, like I said before, it was baggage, right? And the more you harbor on it, the more you harp on it, the more you internalize it, the sicker it makes you. And so if you can get it out, then you can start freeing yourself.
And I think for me at least, coming to this platform and vowing to be my most authentic self, the feedback that I've gotten from others in which that I've helped, that is the catalyst to keep me going and keep me sharing. So I'm sure I've read some of your testimonials of customers that you're changing lives.
Yeah, it's super, super exciting, and it's so motivating to get up in the morning, no matter how bad a day I'm having, to know that we're helping people and to know that there's more people out there that we need to help.
Well, I'd love to get your perspective on something a takeaway, a lesson learned that you could really give our listeners to take with into their lives.
Yeah. So even before this question was presented to me, I have been thinking about this a lot. I think a lot, which is probably the cause of all of my mental health disorders. My mind is always on. But what I've realized, and it took me a long time, my dad died when I was 18. So that was senior year of high school. And it took me, I want to say, till 2018, 2017. So a good, really long time for me to make peace with it. And in making peace with it, what I realized was it had to happen. I know it's really sad to say, but the bad stuff that's happening in your life, it's happening for a reason. And I know it's super cheesy and super, super aggravating to hear, but for me personally, sorry,
No, this is... Yeah.
without him getting sick, I would never met my best friend, because her dad was one of his doctors, or like consulting doctors. And then years later, she's the one that connected me to my now husband.
Wow. And
then years later, he's the one that I've built this business with that's helping millions of people. I mean, his sickness was also part of the reason I even have this disorder in the first place. And so, yeah, I used to grow up thinking, why me? Why is this happening to me? Why am I pulling? Why is he dying? But now I look back and I say, that was the wrong question. It's not why me. It's what can I do about this? And so what I've realized is that the pain that you're going through in your life, that is your purpose. You're supposed to look at that, and you're supposed to figure out how to work it out, how to unravel all those knots. And that is your life's purpose. We all go through life like zombies trying to figure out what we're here for.
Mm-hmm.
And pushing the pain away, mm-hmm. right? But that is your purpose. And that's what I see every day with entrepreneurs today is they're going after big problems that they've had in their own lives. You know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. We hear it every time we have someone in that's made a business. It has a personal connection to their life.
Whether it's, can't even think right now, but there's so many, female entrepreneurs right now that I'm seeing, and even male entrepreneurs, that are going after big issues that tormented them.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what I believe, that's the lesson that I would take away from my 30 plus years of life. I'm just thankful that I figured it out now and not later. And of course, I always wish I knew it earlier kind of thing, but it's also everything has happened the way it has had to get me to where I am and to help me get other people to where they are today.
Yeah. Well, that is fabulous advice, and I can't add anything more to that. You have left me speechless and absolutely in love with you and in love with what you are doing for our world. So thank you.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for allowing me to share this, and I hope that someone listening just kind of has that aha moment, whether it's with their hair pulling, skin picking, or nail biting, or whatever it is, that pain that they have in their life. So please, if you do, I would love to know.
Yeah, where can people find you?
So our Twitter, Facebook, Instagram is all at Habit Aware. Our website is also habitaware.com. You can easily find my email address, or it's just Aneela at habitaware.com. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Aneela. Thank you for being here. And you can find us, as always, at Blunt Cuts Podcast.